Okay, so you want to buy a private jet. Good news! For $6.5 million, you can own one outright. A brand new Cessna Citation. No fractional shares, no scheduling app, it's yours. Bad news, the jet is the cheapest part of owning a jet. Right now, somewhere in a hangar in Ohio or Texas or New Jersey, there's a light jet that hasn't left the ground in 3 weeks. Nobody's flying it, it's just sitting there, and it's still costing its owner about $30,000 a month. That's the entire private jet business in one sentence. The plane doesn't need to fly to cost you money, it just needs to exist. And the moment you sign the paperwork, it's already worth less than what you paid. Now let's talk about the price list, because private jet isn't one price, it's 3 completely different businesses wearing the same wings. Tier 1, light jets. Something like a Cessna Citation CJ3 Plus. New, well-equipped, you're looking at $6.5 to $7.5 million. Buy used, 5-10 years old, and that number drops to $2 or $3 million. Seats 6 to 8 people, range about 2,000 miles. Enough to get you from New York to Denver, not quite enough for London. Tier 2, mid-size and super mid-size. A Bombardier Challenger, something in that class. New jets here run $12 to $25 million. Super mid-size models push $20 to $35 million. Used versions 6 to 18 million, depending on age and how many hours are already on the engines. Now you've got real range, coast to coast, non-stop. Tier 3, heavy and ultra long range. Think Gulfstream G650, Bombardier Global 7500, the jets that show up parked next to each other at Davos. New, these start around 50 million and climb past 70. Used, 20 to 30 million gets you in the door. Range, 6,500 miles. London to Hong Kong, one stop. And here's the part nobody mentions at the sale. The sticker price is basically a down payment. Add a management company to handle scheduling, crew, and compliance, that's another $8,000 to $15,000 a month before you've flown a single mile. Add hangar space. In a premium market like Teterboro or Van Nuys, a private hangar can run you $30,000 to $200,000 a year. Add insurance, $15,000 for a light jet, over $85,000 for something ultra long range. So a $6.5 million jet is really a $6.5 million jet plus roughly $500,000 a year in costs before you've gone anywhere. And that's before fuel, that's before crew, that's before you've actually used the thing you just bought. Now before you buy, here's what the brochure doesn't walk you through. First, you can't just fly it yourself, even if you've got a pilot's license. Jets this size legally require a minimum crew of 2, both type rated on that specific aircraft. A type rating, the certification to fly one exact model of jet, costs $20,000 to $30,000 per pilot, and it has to be renewed with recurrent training every year. That's $40,000 to $60,000 a year just so someone's legally allowed to fly your plane. Second, where you park it matters more than what you paid for it. Prime airports, Teterboro outside New York, Van Nuys in LA, have limited hangar slots. Some are effectively full. Miss out and your $70 million Gulfstream is parked outdoors, exposed to weather, losing value faster. Third, there are 2 totally different legal categories you're operating under. Part 91, flying your own jet for your own trips, has lighter rules. Part 135, charter, flying paying passengers, comes with stricter maintenance schedules, more oversight, more cost. A lot of owners register under 135 anyway, so they can charter the jet out when they're not using it. That helps offset costs. It also means strangers are sitting in your seats. And fourth, insurance won't just hand you a policy. Underwriters want to see pilot experience, hours logged, safety records. A jet with inexperienced pilots can see premiums double. None of this shows up in the sales pitch. It shows up in month 2. So how does the math actually work? Every hour you fly breaks down into 2 buckets: fixed costs and variable costs. Fixed costs don't care if you fly once a year or 300 times. Crew salaries alone run $85,000 to $300,000 per pilot per year, and you need at least 2: hangar, insurance, recurrent training. For a mid-sized jet, fixed costs alone can hit $500,000 to $800,000 a year before the engines even start. Variable costs are what you pay per hour you actually fly: fuel, landing fees, maintenance reserves. For a mid-sized jet, that's $3,000 to $5,500 an hour. For something heavy, $5,500 to $12,000 an hour. A mid-sized jet burns roughly 200 gallons of fuel an hour. Call it $500 to $600 in fuel alone, every single hour, whether you're going to Aspen or just doing a test flight. Here's the industry's dirty secret, the one number that actually decides if buying makes sense: 200 hours a year. Fly less than that, and chartering, just paying for flights as you need them, is almost always cheaper than owning. Fly more than 400 hours a year and ownership starts winning. Problem is, most private jet owners fly nowhere close to 400 hours. Average is closer to 50 to 150 hours a year for individual owners, which means most private jets are mathematically a worse deal than just chartering every single year. That's exactly why fractional ownership exists. Companies like NetJets sell you a slice. A 16th of a jet gets you around 50 flight hours a year for $500,000 to $850,000 up front, plus $12,000 to $15,000 a month in management fees, plus another $8,500 per hour you actually fly. You're not buying a plane, you're buying a subscription to not deal with any of this and paying a premium for the privilege. There's a third option most people never hear about: jet cards. You pay up front for a block of flight hours, say 25 hours, at a locked hourly rate with no aircraft to insure, no crew to hire, no depreciation to eat. It's the middle ground between owning and one-off chartering. The catch? You're paying a premium per hour for that flexibility. And if you don't fly your hours within the contract period, some programs let that money simply expire. Now here's what's happening underneath. Mechanisms most owners never think about. First, maintenance reserve programs. Engines aren't paid for once, they're paid for by the hour into a reserve account, so that when a major overhaul hits, sometimes $500,000, the money's already there. Programs like JSSI charge owners per flight hour specifically to pre-fund that bill. Skip it and you're one unscheduled engine inspection away from a six-figure surprise invoice. Second, deadhead flights. When your jet flies to pick you up or flies back empty after dropping you off, that's a deadhead, a flight with 0 passengers. You pay full fuel and crew costs for a plane carrying nobody. Depending on your travel patterns, 10 to 20% of total flight hours on a private jet are empty repositioning legs. You're paying full price for the plane to fly itself around. Third, depreciation is engineered into the asset from day one. A new jet loses 10 to 15% of its value in year one alone, before you've flown it anywhere. An $80 million aircraft is worth roughly $70 million after 12 months. That's not bad luck, that's just what happens to airplanes. And fourth, the tax code actually rewards you for this. Under bonus depreciation rules, a business jet used for qualifying flights can be written off aggressively in year one, which is exactly why so many corporate jets exist as tax strategy first, transportation second. The IRS effectively subsidizes part of the very depreciation that's draining your net worth. And fifth, every airport you touch wants its own cut. Landing fees, ramp fees, FBO handling charges just to park at the terminal for an hour. Fly somewhere cold and de-icing alone can run several $1,000s per application. Fly internationally and you're paying for permits, customs handling, and overflight fees in every country your jet crosses before you've even landed. Let's talk about who won and who got grounded. The win. Richard Santulli. In 1986, he took an idea nobody believed in, selling fractions of a jet instead of the whole thing, and built NetJets. By 1998, it was successful enough that Warren Buffett bought it outright for Berkshire Hathaway. Buffett has called it one of his favorite businesses. NetJets today operates a fleet of over 700 aircraft. Santulli didn't get rich by owning one jet. He got rich by solving the exact math problem we just walked through for other people at scale. Now the failure. Wheels Up, another fractional and on-demand jet company, went public in 2021 promising to make private flying accessible to more people. It didn't work. By early 2023, the company reported a net loss of $101 million in a single quarter. Total losses hit $555 million. Cash reserves shrank from $585 million to $363 million in 3 months. The founder, Kenny Dichter, stepped down. In September 2023, Delta Airlines led a $500 million rescue and walked away owning 95% of the company. The founder who built it kept almost nothing. And then there's Sam Bankman-Fried. Before FTX collapsed, the company had 2 jets on standby, a Bombardier Global 5000 worth nearly $16 million and an Embraer Legacy 600 worth $12.5 million, both purchased with what prosecutors say was customer money funneled through an informal no-interest handshake loan. When FTX imploded, U.S. Marshals seized both aircraft as forfeited assets. The jets meant to symbolize arrival became evidence in a fraud trial. And it's not just the giants. JetSuite, a smaller charter operator flying light jets, filed for bankruptcy in 2020 and grounded its entire fleet almost overnight. Proof that this business breaks operators of every size, not just the ones with billion-dollar valuations. 3 different stories, same lesson. The jet doesn't care how the money was made, it just needs someone to keep paying for it. Let's run the actual numbers. 2 scenarios. Optimistic. You buy a used mid-size jet for $10 million. You fly it 400 hours a year, genuinely heavy use, real business travel. Fixed costs, $700,000 a year. Variable costs at $4,000 an hour, $1.6 million. Total, $2.3 million a year, or roughly $5,700 per flight hour flown. Chartering that same 400 hours at similar rates would cost close to the same, so at this usage level, ownership roughly breaks even against chartering while giving you total control of your schedule. Realistic. You buy the same $10 million jet, but you actually fly it 80 hours a year, much closer to what most owners really do. Fixed costs stay the same, $700,000. Variable costs, $320,000. Total, just over $1 million a year. Divide that by 80 hours and you're paying over $12,700 for every hour you're actually in the air. Add first year depreciation of 10 to 15%, $1 to $1.5 million in value gone, and your real cost per flight hour year 1 is closer to $30,000. For $30,000 an hour, you could charter the same aircraft with none of the risk and walk away the next year owing nothing. So here's the paradox. A private jet is the one asset that starts losing money before it's even left the hangar, depreciating, accruing insurance, burning through reserve funds, all while parked. It's not really a plane, it's a subscription to convenience disguised as an asset with a $10 million deposit. Buy it to fly 400 hours a year and the math almost works. Buy it to feel like you've arrived and fly it 80 hours instead, and you've just spent $30,000 an hour to remind yourself you can. Warren Buffett didn't get rich owning a jet. He got rich owning the company that sells everyone else a slice of one. Maybe that's the real lesson. Don't buy the plane, buy the company that rents it out.